Disney's Snow White remake has been at the center of controversy for over a year now, and the financial results are finally coming in. The numbers paint a grim picture for the entertainment giant, with projections suggesting Disney could lose over $300 million on this troubled production. Today, I'm breaking down exactly how this happened, what went wrong, and why this could be one of Disney's biggest box office disasters in recent history. If you're finding this analysis valuable, please consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth coverage of entertainment industry news and box office analysis. The warning signs for Snow White's failure have been visible for months. Rachel Zegler, who stars as the Teeler character, sparked significant backlash with her comments about the original 1937 animated classic. In multiple interviews, Zegler criticized elements of the original film, calling it dated and suggesting her version would be a modern reimagining that moved away from the weird stalker prince and focused instead on female empowerment. These comments alienated fans of the original film and created a PR nightmare that Disney struggled to contain. The studio's decision to significantly alter core elements of the beloved story further fueled the controversy. Gone were the 7 dwarfs, replaced with a diverse group of companions. The prince's role was minimized and the entire narrative was restructured to align with contemporary sensibilities. The result? A film that has been rejected by audiences in spectacular fashion. After 2 weekends in theaters, Snow White has earned a dismal 1.5 out of 10 rating on IMDb, making it one of the lowest-rated major studio releases in the site's history. While review bombing certainly plays a role in the score, the box office numbers tell an equally concerning story. Snow White opened with the worst debut weekend in Disney's history of live-action remakes, falling below even notorious underperformers like Dumbo. Industry analysts hoped the film might recover in its second weekend, but instead it experienced a catastrophic 66.4% drop, the steepest second weekend decline for any Disney live-action remake to date. For context, other Disney remakes like Maleficent, Jungle Cruise, and Cruella all had significantly better holds. Even The Marvels, widely considered one of Disney's biggest recent failures, performed better through its first 2 weekends than Snow White is currently tracking. The financial implications are staggering. While Disney officially claimed a production budget of around $200 to $250 million, financial documents filed in the UK tell a different story. Because the film was shot in Britain to take advantage of tax incentives, Disney was required to disclose its spending. By December 31, 2023, the company had already spent $270 million on the production, and that was before significant reshoots and final post-production work. Caroline Reed at Forbes highlighted these figures, noting that the final production cost likely exceeds $300 million, even after accounting for UK tax rebates. Add an estimated $100 to $150 million for global marketing, a conservative estimate compared to the $150 million spent promoting The Little Mermaid remake, and Disney's total investment approaches $450 million. With global box office receipts currently sitting at just $143 million after 2 weekends, industry analysts project the film will struggle to reach $225 million worldwide by the end of its theatrical run. Remember that studios typically receive only about half of the box office gross, meaning Disney might recoup just $110 to $115 million from theaters. Additional revenue from streaming, digital rentals, and merchandise will help offset some losses, but the math remains brutal. When accounting for the full production and marketing costs, Disney is looking at a potential loss exceeding $300 million, placing Snow White in the same financial disaster category as The Marvels and potentially making it one of the biggest box office bombs in the studio's history. What makes this situation particularly noteworthy is how predictable it was. Industry observers and online commentators had been warning about the film's prospects for months. The combination of controversial casting, significant story alterations, and negative pre-release publicity created a perfect storm that Disney either failed to recognize or chose to ignore. The studio's marketing strategy also raised eyebrows. Early promotional materials seemed to downplay Rachel Zegler's involvement, focusing instead on Gal Gadot's evil queen. Disney also attempted to control the narrative by inviting select social media influencers to early screenings, resulting in a brief wave of positive reactions that contrasted sharply with general audience sentiment once the film was released. This disconnect between curated early reactions and actual audience reception has become a recurring pattern for struggling blockbusters. The initial positive buzz from Access Media rarely translates to box office success when the general public rejects a film's premise or execution. Snow White's failure also highlights the growing challenges Disney faces with its live-action remake strategy. While early entries like The Jungle Book, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin were massive hits, recent attempts have yielded diminishing returns. The studio appears caught between faithfully adapting beloved classics and updating them for contemporary audiences, often resulting in films that satisfy neither nostalgic fans nor new viewers. The financial impact of Snow White extends beyond just the single film. Disney's stock price has been under pressure, and CEO Bob Iger has been implementing cost-cutting measures across the company. Another high-profile failure puts additional strain on the studio's theatrical division, which has already weathered several disappointments in recent years. For Rachel Zegler, this marks her second consecutive underperforming film following West Side Story, though that film's release was significantly impacted by the pandemic. Her next major project is the Hunger Games prequel, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, where she plays a supporting role. How this Snow White controversy affects her career trajectory remains to be seen. Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen, has generally received more positive reviews for her performance, continuing her pattern of being a bright spot in otherwise troubled productions. However, with Wonder Woman 3 no longer moving forward under James Gunn's DC Studios reset, Gadot's future in major franchises appears uncertain. Director Mark Webb, known for the Amazing Spider-Man films and 500 Days of Summer, also faces questions about his handling of this high-profile project. The extensive reshoots and production delays suggest significant behind-the-scenes challenges that ultimately weren't resolved before release. Looking ahead, Disney has several more live-action remakes in various stages of development, including Moana, Lilo & Stitch, and Hercules. The studio will need to carefully evaluate its approach to these projects in light of Snow White's performance. Simply updating classic stories with contemporary messaging clearly isn't resonating with the broad audience. These expensive productions need to succeed. The Snow White debacle also raises questions about Disney's overall creative direction. Under Bob Iger's leadership, the company has emphasized diversity and inclusion initiatives across its content portfolio. While these goals are admirable, the execution has sometimes felt forced or inauthentic to audiences, particularly when applied to established properties with dedicated fan bases. The most successful Disney remakes have found ways to expand upon the original stories while respecting their core elements. The Jungle Book and Cinderella, for instance, added depth to their characters without fundamentally altering what made the originals beloved. Snow White, in contrast, seemed determined to deconstruct its source material, resulting in a film that felt disconnected from the classic it was supposedly adapting. Industry analysts will be studying Snow White's failure for years to come. It represents a perfect case study in how not to handle a beloved intellectual property. From controversial casting and pre-release comments to significant story alterations and poor marketing execution, virtually every aspect of this project seemed designed to alienate its target audience. For Disney, the $300 million loss comes at a particularly challenging time. The company is still recovering from the financial impact of the pandemic, facing increased competition in the streaming space, and dealing with declining theme park attendance. Another high-profile box office disaster puts additional pressure on leadership to right the ship. The lesson here seems clear. Audiences will reject even the most technically impressive productions when they feel a beloved story has been fundamentally altered to serve contemporary messaging rather than storytelling. Disney's challenge moving forward will be finding the balance between modernization and respect for the source material that made these stories classics in the first place. As Snow White continues its theatrical run, the final loss figures may fluctuate, but the verdict is already in. This is a monumental financial disaster for Disney, one that could have been avoided had the studio listened to the concerns that fans and industry observers had been voicing for over a year. If you found this analysis informative, please hit the subscribe button and join our community for more in-depth coverage of entertainment industry news and box office analysis. We'll continue tracking Snow White's performance and bringing you updates on Disney's response to this costly misstep.